Parents and sports coaches, welcome. This video is for you. Today we're going to talk about the Biella Rugby Club physical development pathway, how we take a young rugby player, bring them through a journey so they get to their absolute best, their peak genetic athletic potential. That's where we want to take players to if they adhere to the program. And so today this should give you clarity on what you can do with your young rugby players and what kind of road they should follow to get the absolute best out of them. I'm not going to hold you hostage, all right? I'm going to show you this straight away so you got the information, and then stick around and I'll explain the details and what everything means. So let's just go for the headlines. Technically proficient, we've got to do strength training, we've got to get them fit. Then, are they strong enough? Okay. Are they fast and powerful enough? Okay. Are they big enough? All right. So can they repeat their peak efforts, and how often can they do that? And that's pretty much it. That's what we're looking at. So let's break that down. Now, this is a model that I first saw a schematic very similar to this in 2013 or 2011 by Ashley Jones, who is a fantastic rugby strength and conditioning coach. He obviously put his thoughts down on paper, and I was really inspired by it. It was really an easy thing to see and get inspiration from. If you're a coach or a parent, you go, well, that's a good process. And then in 2015, I believe it was, my old mentor at Scottish Rugby, Derek Spears, showed me something very, very similar to what I'm showing you now. It's almost the same, okay? Because it's very, very good, it's very effective. And this is the model that young rugby players in Scotland have gone through to then go on to become British and Irish Lions. Okay, so if you follow it, this works. And this is just the broad strokes, all right? I'll go in to the long-term athletic development model in a future video where we'll have to talk about a lot of other things, but in this particular video, I really just want to give you clarity on what a journey can look like, okay, from a physical development standpoint. So let's get into it. So this is the first step, technically proficient. Well, what does that mean? Are they technically proficient on the fundamental movement patterns? So we're looking at the squat, the hinge, the push, the pull, the lunge, the brace and the rotate. Does your young rugby player have stability on those movements? Do they have mobility through full range of those movements? Okay, and people are changing all the time physically when they're young, okay, we know that. So I don't want to get into the side of things that's the long-term athletic development model and talking about growth and maturation. We'll do that in another video. But suffice to say, if we keep it simple, we're trying to get young people that are starting on their journey, everyone knows, moving really, really well with good range of motion and full stability. In fact, there was a conference I attended, I believe in 2017 or 2018, and I remember Des Ryan, who's another really well-respected coach, author, guy in our industry, and he said when he was looking after the Arsenal Academy, the football academy, a message that he gives to young people, how they determine or phrase that section is just how well can you move. And that's the message that you give to athletes. And so at that stage, you're trying to get people technically proficient, and that's it. That's like, how well can you perform the press up? How well can you perform a backward lunge, a forward lunge, and all these various different movement patterns that players will go through. So I really like that idea, because I use that with my athletes now. They'll say, Fraser, can I do whatever, 100 kilograms on the squat? And I will say to them, buddy, you can do 300 kilograms or 200 kilograms. I don't really care. What I care about though is what we talked about. Are your heels down, or your hips coming in line or below your knee? So we need that full range of motion. So go ahead and put on 100 kilograms if you think you can. And then of course I'll watch them, and they kind of get the message when I say, like, yeah, do 300, and they're like, well, that's impossible. I'm like, well, let's just stick to your 60 then, buddy, and keep the range of motion, and we'll go slowly. Okay, so I think you get the message with being technically proficient. Okay, then we're going into strength training, all right? And what is strong enough, all right? Remember that we're doing everything concurrently. So it's not like we're just training with empty barbells or no weights for 4 years until we get technically proficient. We're just making sure there's a standard of proficiency that we're happy with, of movement quality, and then we start to load that. And again, we load it nice and slowly and methodically, okay? When we're asking ourselves, well, what is strong enough? We want to be tracking to hit these numbers here. The trap bar, 2.4 times body weight. Back squat, 1.8 times body weight. RDL, the hinge pattern, 1.8 times body weight. Bench press and chin-ups, you can see. So we want to be tracking towards those numbers, and these numbers are absolutely feasible, attainable. There's something that you won't get on your first 6 weeks of training, okay? But with a number of years, and I'm not talking about 10 years, I'm talking about a couple of years, you're going to be hitting those numbers if you're following a strength and conditioning program. So if you want more information about these standards, why these numbers, then check out this video that I'm linking here. All right, I go into details of how we actually come up with various different standards when you're working in team sports. And it's almost the best way to think about it sometimes if you're if you're a parent or a coach. It's like, well, you have standards in life to do certain things. You know, to get into certain universities, to go into certain classes. It's just like, well, this is the level you need to be at if you want to study here or compete here. So these standards are very feasible if someone's following a methodical, well thought out, and they're adhering to, which is the most important thing, a strength program. That is the #1 metric that we look at for our young rugby players. Like, I'll ask about the movement and their assessments and all that stuff after I ask my assistant coaches, so what's their attendance? That's the first thing. What's the attendance? Because if they're not attending, I don't need to, they're not getting better. Of course they're not following a program. Okay, after strong enough, or not after, but concurrently, we're looking at aerobic capacity training, okay? Now, I've just thrown up the Bronco and the Yo-Yo intermittent recovery level 1 test there. You can see the numbers. Don't get lost in these numbers, all right? Let's talk about aerobic capacity training. There's 2 things that are really important here. The first thing is, that should be going on all throughout a player's journey, okay? Doing fitness training, let's keep it really broad. Fitness training, as much as you can with the ball, like having fun, playing games, various different, just playing rugby or offside touch or whatever it is. Playing as much games as you can, and also having drills in there as and when is necessary. Now, the second thing is, let's talk about specificity. Because I've had some coaches say to me, well, we don't need to do any fitness training because, do you know what? Our under 16s, they like do 4 passes and then the ball goes down, so the actual phase of play is only like 20 seconds, and then the total ball in play, so they might play for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, but actually they're only 20 minutes of ball in play, so they don't really need fitness. And I'm going, okay, I hear you, and that's good analysis. However, don't we just want our young people to be fit? Yep. And so, you know, we want our young people to be fit and strong. We don't need to think at that age, at a young age, really specifically, like, oh my goodness, these are the demands of the game from an aerobic condition, or from a, let's keep it broad, from a conditioning standpoint. We need to be training exactly that. No, we don't do that in the gym. We don't have any special exercises for 16-year-olds in the gym. We're just broadly doing general physical preparation work. They're getting stronger, they're jumping, they're landing, they're moving. Same with fitness. So we can have, you know, as long as it's systematic, we can have days where we're going, oh, we're going to focus on aerobic capacity here, then we're going to do, you know, the next day we're going to do some anaerobic capacity work, and then we're going to do some anaerobic lactate work, and that could be spread out within a session, spread out within weeks, spread out within whatever, and you're trying to use the ball as much as possible. But don't fall for the trap that fitness needs to be super specific for a young developing rugby player. It will at certain points, and remember, we're not talking about specific parts of the season right now, but just when I've had that sort of response from some coaches, I'm like, well, yeah, don't worry about if, you know, we need to increase their skill level, and that's, again, we'll talk about that in a video when I look at the long-term athletic development model, and we'll bring in skills and stuff here. This is the physical development, but don't get caught in the trap of, well, you know, the typical, the ratio is this and it's only this. It's like, no. Let's just, how do we get people fit in general? And let's do something like that, but make it rugby specific, because we'll use the ball and play games, because people like that. I mean, that's why they come to rugby, to play rugby, right? Okay, and then of course we have our standards here. Again, these standards are specific to us right now. Standards, again, I'll link this video so you can get full detail and go into that. Otherwise we'll go down a rabbit hole about standards, and that's not the point of this video right now. That's where we're at. For some people that'll be like, oh my gosh, that's really difficult. For some people it'll be like, really, is that all? That's easy. And the thing is, it's enough. It's enough. Okay, so once they're strong enough and fit enough, and again, we're doing things concurrently. If they're not getting stronger, then here's a guide. Are you squatting and hinging twice a week? Are you pressing and pulling twice a week? And this could be two whole body sessions where you do everything in 60 minutes. That's fine. It works really, really well for under 16 players. Maybe it's 3 times a week, 3 whole body sessions, and you get to do all this stuff. I like to use the reverse chain method to teach the clean technique, and I'll probably do that maybe after, I don't want to give a timeline on it, but that'll creep into the strength sessions once people are moving well and they start to get some load through the body. Then we're going on to, okay, well, are they fast and powerful enough? Well, what does that mean? Well, what are we talking about, fast and powerful? Well, here's some metrics for you. The clean, 1.2 times body weight, backs, 1.4 times body weight. You know, yes, we use weightlifting, we use different derivatives. We're talking about, you know, we can also look at other power metrics. We have lots of information. We have RSI, we have CMJs, etc., etc. I'll link a video here about power training if you're interested, and you can go down and explore that topic. Here are some speed times, all right, when I'm asking, are they fast enough? Well, you know, 1.8 for a front rower. Again, these are all numbers that our guys have done, can do, and do regularly. So that's why they're our standards, they're not yours, but they certainly serve for a good guide for most rugby teams at our level. So obviously professional standards, international standards will be slightly different. But suffice to say, and this is the last thing I'll say about standards, you know, if you're telling me you're outside back and you run a 30-meter time in 4:50 seconds, then you know you won't be playing rugby at high levels and outside back at 4:50, and that's fine. It's just to be aware of that. You need to get faster. All right, you following me? Good. Okay. After fast and powerful enough, you know, we've got this big enough. Now, just give a quick guide on getting fast and powerful. Of course, you're going to be jumping, you're going to be doing plyometrics where you're doing strength training. We're just talking about a shift in focus where perhaps instead of, you know, squatting and hinging twice a week, maybe you're doing, you're still doing that maybe once a week, but maybe you're getting more push presses in, you're getting more explosive lifting, derivatives of weightlifting. We do that a lot with our guys. Of course, you're going to have speed mechanics, you're going to be looking at more aggressive plyometrics for the fast and powerful enough, all right? Big enough, people are often confused. Well, doesn't that come first? Shouldn't people get big and then get strong and then get fast? Which is literally one of my programs, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, because that follows a sequence of training that it sets you up to peak. So you tend to do more volume-based stuff, which supports hypertrophy. And then you go into sort of max strength training, which supports strength adaptations. And then you go into, and this is a block approach, then you go into more speed and power stuff. So it's really good for peaking and developing athletes. But in the grand scheme of things, the strength training that you do, as a byproduct, you're going to be increasing your lean muscle mass. Like, that's what's going to happen. So you're running through this process, and this isn't a perfect process. There's many ways to do things, okay? Many ways. But this is certainly one way to look at it. So, you know, you go through your strength training, are they tracking to get their numbers? So if someone's, you know, unable to do 30 press-ups, like, you know, I've got a young rugby player and he's 18 years old and he can't do 30 press-ups as a strength metric. You're probably thinking I'm talking about bench press 1RM. Just let's keep it simple, 30 press-ups. Then I'm not going to be going, okay, we need to get him much bigger. You know, he needs to go from 90 kilograms to 100 kilograms. I'm going to be going, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's first be able to handle our body weight for 30 reps. Because if you go through that process and you break that down and you get stronger, again, as a byproduct, you're going to start seeing muscles come through that you hadn't had before. Because now all of a sudden you've gone from not being able to do 30 good press-ups to being able to do 60. And you're able to bang out 3 sets of 20 with 1 minute rest. That's going to change your lean muscle mass. And that's what I mean by getting stronger first. So it's a simple way to think about it. However, if you're going through a process and you get to the point where, yes, I'm fast, I'm strong, but I do need, you know, and I've put on obviously a lot of lean muscle since I started my training, but now I want to go to this next level, and generally the people are fast and strong and heavier than me, then fine, good, okay, you're gonna go on a hypertrophy focus. You know, so that a lot of the time that comes at the end of the under 18 year. If they've gone through 2 years of solid training, strength training, they're going into senior rugby. It's like, boom, let's lock in this 4-6 month block of getting on the muscle. Okay, and again, it's just one way to do it. You're always training for strength and power as well. It's just where you're shifting your priorities. All right, then we've got our repeatability of max efforts. So once you can do a thing like really well, how often can you do it? How quickly can you do it again? How quickly can you get back up to that level? So obviously in rugby there's you know, it's an aerobic but intermittent sport. There's lots of repeat efforts. So what we want to do is make sure that we can get the momentum, get the power, be strong, but then how quickly can we recover to be able to do that again? Obviously all this stuff, repeat of max efforts, big enough, fast and powerful enough, strong enough, is related to aerobic capacity training. We're always concurrently training the aerobic capacity and developing that energy system, and that really does help us recover and be able to perform these max efforts again. However, it's important that there is actually a training dedicated to that when it's time, okay? Because the first rule of training is the SAID principle, not the first rule, but it's an important principle: specific adaptations to imposed demands. But what we don't want to do is just practice repeat efforts if we can't ever fully express the 100% that's required for a certain level. So the best way to think about it might be the 100-meter final in the Olympics, where everyone breaks the 10-second barrier. You know, give them 60 seconds to recover, ask them to do it again. You know, you bet your boots that they'll be over 10 seconds now, because it's a true max effort. And when something's a true max effort, you know, you're unable to maintain it. You can try that at home. You can try it at home by jumping as high as you possibly can, right? Really as high as you possibly can. You know, get some chalk on your hands, slap the wall on the outside of your house. Take 10 seconds and just do 20 reps of that. 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. You will have a drop off. And that's absolutely normal, and it's absolutely fine. But it's important that you're able to express your peak and you develop your 100%, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Guys, that is it. That is the physical pathway that a young rugby player comes to at BLA Rugby Club, and that's kind of what we look at without going into the details of the strength program, the power program. And again, I'm not saying that, oh, someone's just doing strength training for 3 years and then these numbers are okay, now we go into the next thing. That's not what it's about, all right? There is, obviously, we train things concurrently, but if we're talking about focus and we're, you know, conversations, is this person ready to transition to this team or this team? I'm going, huge risk of injury on that player because they don't have X, Y, and Z. You know, we need another year focusing on this if we want to get them there. Same thing on positional decisions. This kid, you know, we've got in our player matrix, we've got a gap in the wingers, for example. What do we think? Will this kid get to the standard? And I'm going, well, yes. I mean, he's 17 and he's already running boom, these numbers here that I'm showing you. So he'll absolutely be okay from a physical standpoint on the wing. He's fast enough to get away from people. How we transition them into other areas of the squad, etc., is to be determined. But so yeah, guys, that is it. All right, I'll do another video on the long-term athletic development plan where we talk more about how we integrate everything with skills, talk about certain focuses at certain ages, but this just gives you the broad strokes, and again, absolutely inspired and probably even could say stolen from two other strength and conditioning coaches, who one was my mentor at Scottish Rugby and one has no clue who I am, but I've read pretty much everything he's ever posted and written, so yeah, it's something that works. It's something that, again, this process, there's players that are identified in Scotland and then go through and become British and Irish Lions by following something similar to this. So hopefully that provides clarity. Hopefully there's a little bit of insight in there. And if you're still watching, well done, because there's a lot of information in there and most people would have switched off. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for future videos, and if you're interested, check out the standards video, which I'll link here, just here, and check out the explosive, how to become a more explosive rugby player video, which I will link here. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.